Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8. So I'm sorry I'm late. I had filmed a whole video last week, and then I realized that this mic that I just bought, it's like this tiny little mic, it like cut out for like the whole video, so I needed to refilm. But I did go live yesterday, and I talked to some of you, and I asked what you guys would want me to talk about. Honestly, a lot of people gave like other video ideas, like not just sitting down and talking, like vlogs, like gym workouts, what I eat in a day. Those I'm going to start doing as well. But for this week, I just thought we would sit down and talk about the other things that you guys have requested. So for today's video, we will be talking about radical acceptance and shame. I'm going to look up the textbook definition of radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is a practice that involves acknowledging and accepting your circumstances, including different emotions, without judgment. It can help you reduce suffering and break cycles of negative emotions. So I feel like that's more general, but for me, when I learned about, it had more to do with people in my life, like my loved ones, who because I'm in a fixer role with like a lot of people who I so desperately wanted to change, and I needed to radically accept that just may never happen. So I feel like, especially if you have a parent that you want to change, it's so hard. Radical acceptance is so difficult. Like, I really think it's one of the most difficult things to accomplish. I still haven't done it. Like, it's very, very hard, especially when you love someone. Like, I give props to anybody who has accomplished it, because I can't even imagine myself accomplishing it, honestly, because that's how tough it seems to me. My spirit reader even told me, this is why I say spirituality and psychology, I believe, goes hand in hand, because my spirit reader told me that, like, you know how in like spirituality, there's like your highest self, it's like the best version of you. So for people like me, we see the best version of people and what they can become and their highest self. Like, we see that, and we want so badly for that person to become their best version of themselves. But sometimes some people are just never going to get there. Like, sometimes their journey on this earth, like as a soul, is just not meant to reach their highest self yet. And that's heartbreaking, especially when you love a person, to accept that about them. Because I don't know, like for me specifically, like I can see the potential in people so much. Like, I can see how great they can be, just how amazing they could be. And that's why it's like so hard for me to accept that it just will never happen, because I know it can happen. Like, it's so possible. And I just want them to see that themselves. Like, you can be this, and you can do that, and you can love yourself, and you can be confident, and you could be a good person, and you could be productive, and you could be successful, and you could do, and whatever it may be. Because I know it's so possible for them, I just want to like shake them and like wake them up and be like, oh my God, like you can do this. Like, you can do this. You can accomplish this. So spiritually, my spirit reader said that sometimes it's just not part of their plan on this earth, and it's just not going to happen in this lifetime for them. And that absolutely like shattered my heart the first time that I was told that. Actually, the first time that idea was brought to me was my therapist actually told me. And when my therapist would say things like this, like, I would get mad. I would get so mad, because I'd be like, they're so pessimistic. Like, I don't know, it triggered me when any therapist, because I've had like 2 therapists say this to me. They're like, because they have to ask like the hard questions. They're like, well, how would you feel if they never changed? Like, what if they just never get better? And I'm like, I was like, what? Can we not, like, what? Why are we talking so negatively? Like, let's not talk about that, please. I was immediately like, I was so mad. And so like I was like, you know, it would get anyone mad. And that's why therapy is supposed to be hard, because like those are obviously I was projecting, because those are my fears. Like, they're asking me about my biggest fear, which would be, what if that person never changes? What if they stay the same? And for me, like, that couldn't be a possibility. That could not be a possibility for me, because I was like, that can't happen. I need them to change. I need them to change, especially when it's like a family member or a loved one. Like, no, there is no giving up hope. But at the end of the day, when you are so, I mean, I think I've talked about this in my other videos, when you are so attached to the outcome of another person that is not in your control, it can really destroy you. Like, genuinely, it can just eat away at you, and it's exhausting. You will be so tired physically and mentally. You can even make yourself sick, like literally sick. It's just so bad for you in every way. Spiritually, mentally, physically, it's so bad for you. And so that's why trying to practice radical acceptance is so important, because these things aren't in your control. Like, at the end of the day, it is a possibility that this person may never change, and it's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And I know, trust me guys, I know. Even thinking about it right now, I'm like, it's just so sad. It's very sad. I feel like the first time you think about it, because like I remember the first time my therapist told me, like, well, what if they never change? Like, even that thought that just went into my head, like, I was immediately upset. Like, it's like a scary feeling. Like, I don't want to think about that. Like, why would you even go there? You know? But as you keep trying to practice this radical acceptance, I think eventually, like, I'm at the point where I'm like, well, that's absolutely terrible. And yes, that is my biggest fear. Like, my biggest fear in the world is that these people will never change. And then, like, I'll never have a relationship with them. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that I'm going to miss out on because they're not changing. And that breaks my heart. Like, it absolutely just shatters my heart. But then I just have to say, well, that's just the cards I've been dealt in this lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, what can I do? There's nothing. Like, if you're hearing this now and there's like somebody in your life that you're like, I need to start practicing radical acceptance, and you're like trying to implement this, I genuinely, I don't know if this is going to be good advice. Like, I don't think a therapist would recommend this, but I know for me personally, I wouldn't have been able to get this close to radical acceptance if I hadn't already done everything I could have in my power. And it's not good. Like, I don't think you should do everything you could and exhaust yourself to the extent that I did. But I genuinely don't think I would have been able to get to the point where I'm like giving up. And I don't want to say giving up, getting to the point where I'm like accepting that this may never change. If I hadn't done all the that I did. Like, this is like years. This is years after. Like, I was fully warped in people's messes, trying to clean up everything, trying to clean up their whole life, get their shit together. I was fully doing everything in my power to help this person. And I did everything. Like, I used up all my resources until there was nothing left. And so I kind of had no choice but to basically like surrender to a therapist and just be like, I did everything. I don't know. Like, I kind of gave up. I started giving up on my own. So yeah, if you haven't done that, then I don't know. I don't have advice to give to people that haven't done that, because I feel like part of the reason I'm even moving closer to radical acceptance is because I did everything in my power. I've already tried it all. And I've tried it all times 3. Like, I've tried it all 10 more times. You know what I mean? I've done it all, and then I did it again like 3 more times. I did the whole cycle all over again, over and over and over and over and over, to the point where I saw there was nothing changing. Like, nothing. Like, it's like beating a dead horse. It's like beating a dead horse, you know? And I feel like it allows me some comfort in knowing that I did everything that I could. So now I can finally be at peace and like just have radical acceptance that these are just the cards I've been dealt, and there's nothing I can do. It's not in my control. I hope that you don't have to go to that extent of really just giving somebody your all and sacrificing your mental health and your physical health to a person, especially if they're not deserving of it. I don't suggest doing that. I'm just saying, I don't know if I would have gotten to this point if I hadn't done that. I don't know how a person would. I feel like that's just usually how it goes. But yeah, I'm not a therapist, so I'm sure there's some other way around it other than sacrificing everything for a person. And my therapist always says, she's like, radical acceptance, that's something like you may never get there. Radical acceptance, like, okay, like for instance, like radical acceptance in the extreme way would be like a child that has a parent who's a drug addict. And if a child were to practice, and by child, I mean just the offspring of the drug addict. It doesn't have to be like a literal child. If the the daughter or the son of the drug addict had to radically accept that this person may never change, they are basically radically accepting that this person is dead to them, because the person that they knew, the sober one, is no longer going to be there ever again. And it's like they have to accept that this person is dead. It's like really grieving someone. Like you're literally grieving someone. And that's why it's so difficult. It's not just like accepting. Like it's way deeper than just like accepting that they are the way they are, especially when addiction plays a part. Because once addiction's involved, it's like you're accepting that this person might die. They might even overdose or whatever. They're going to die having no relationship with you. And to accept that is absolutely insane. That's like insanity. Like imagine accepting that your parent is basically dead to you. Like that's the hardest thing I think somebody can possibly do. You know, while they're still alive, like grieving a person that's still alive, hands down the hardest thing a person has to do. And so yeah, that's why I think radical acceptance is one of the most difficult things to accomplish. It really is. But now that I looked it up, I feel like there's more to it other than what I knew about it. So I think that's definitely something I would want to research more, because I didn't know it was about accepting your emotions without judgment as well. You know, or like just if you come from dysfunction and like your family's not perfect and just wanting your family to be perfect so bad, especially if you see other people with perfect families, and just being so upset that you don't have that, you know, like radical acceptance that like, you know, this is just the life I've been given. And that's it. Like, what are you going to do? You just accept it and say it sucks and I'm going to be upset and I'm going to be sad. I'm not ever going to have a support system like other people do. And just accepting it and moving forward. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when we hold on to all that pain and that resentment and the wanting to change and maybe the hope that maybe someday you'll get that, it's not healthy. You know, it really, really does eat away at you. What I've been learning about in therapy recently is that because of my upbringing, like the specific circumstances of my upbringing, my therapist says that there's a pattern of people in my life that are two different people, that they say one thing, do the other. I have a huge theme of liars in my life. And my therapist would ask me like deep questions about like, do I trust people? Like she would assume that I would have trust issues. And I told her, I said, well, I don't think I have trust issues, because I mean, I do like a little bit. Like trust is so important to me. Like it's something that I hold, like it's like a huge value for me. Like lying, like being honest and having integrity, especially in like intimate relationships, is such a huge value that I hold to like a really, really high standard. Like if somebody lied to me, or I found out that somebody lied about something serious, like it would absolutely break my heart. I told her, I said, well, the way that I know people are telling the truth is because I say, put that on your mother. Literally, that's the standard. That's my way of trusting somebody, is if I say, put that on your mother, no crosses count, go to hell if you're lying. Or if I know that they love their mother, I'll say, put it on their mother. If I know that they're religious, I'll say, put that on the Holy Bible, you'll go to hell if you're lying. No crosses count. I have a friend, I had this best friend growing up, and he wasn't religious. He was like atheist. So I couldn't say put it on the Holy Bible, because that's what I used to always say. So he told me to say put it on our friendship, which now that I'm looking back, I'm like, put it on our friendship. Like, what if you didn't care about our friendship? But I guess I believed so deeply that that man cared about our friendship so much. And so I would say, put it on our friendship, no crosses count. And if he put it on our friendship, or if he couldn't, sometimes he couldn't do it, so I knew he was lying. Like if I know that somebody cares about somebody, I'll say, put it on whoever it is. And that was my way of telling if somebody was lying. But then with this specific person that I talk about in my family, who I was in the fixture role with, I for the first time encountered a person that lies on their mother. Yeah, my mind was blown. My mind was absolutely blown when this person lied on their mother, because I'm like, you just put that on your mother's life. Oh, I was so shocked. And when I was telling my therapist this, she was like laughing. She's like, that seems a little radical, doesn't it? And I'm like, no, I would never lie on my mother. I would never lie on my mother, on my sister, on my father. I would never lie. What are you talking about? That's not radical at all. And she's like, I've been in college and I've lied on my mother. I'm like, you have? I think I'm in enemy territory right now. And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, like my mind was just blown. I don't know. That's something about me that like, I just don't get. I don't know. I don't know why I am that way. To me, I never have. I never lied on my mother. There's loopholes, obviously. You say, I put that on, like, if you say something the wrong way, like, I put that on my mother, that you're saying puh, you didn't say the full thing. Or if, like, you say, I put that on my mother, and you don't say no cross account, you just cross your fingers. Like that, yeah, I've done that before. Absolutely. That's why you have to say no crosses count, you know what I mean? So that was actually my most recent therapy session, I think. And I said, you know, I feel like I used that because I just needed something. Like I just needed something to help myself trust people. And I just used that. You know, that was like, it made me feel safe. I don't know. It just made me feel safe, even if I was being naive. And because, guys, there's been times where I've like actually caught people in lies, like red-handed. And then I would be like, they would like still deny it. And then I would say, put that on your mother, or put that on the Holy Bible, put that on your sister. You'll go to hell if you're lying. And they would do it. And I'm not going to lie, I believed them. I still believe them. I know. And even now, looking back on some of the stuff that I've believed, I don't know, I still kind of believe them. My therapist has told me that I am a little naive. I think I'm starting to realize I am, but I don't know. I think it was just a safety measure for me in my adolescence. And I think I just still hold on to that, because without that, then how do you trust people? I never understood that. Like people that don't say that, like put that on your mother. How do you know when somebody's lying to you? You just have faith? I need solid, like, I need like you to put something on the line. You need to put your mother on the line. You need to put your grandma on the line, and she will die if you're lying. And also, I guess, yeah, it just makes me feel better, because it's like, if you go to that extent of like literally like your grandma might die because you want to cover this up so bad, like then damn, I don't even want you in my life. Like you would do that to your grandma, your poor grandmother. But then at the same time, it's like, God, I'm putting them in that position. Like I'm putting their poor grandma in that position. But yeah, so I never understood how people trust people if they don't say, put that on your mother, put that on your grandma, put that on like whatever. I never understood. And so yeah, I still to this day, I use that all the time. But yeah, there was one person that literally put it on their mom, on their daughter. Whew. And they were caught red-handed, and I'm pretty sure I was just so confused, because I'm like, wait, but I just caught you. Like, I found the evidence. Like, you're caught. Like, you're busted. Busted, you know? You're busted. And then they were like, I put that on my mother. No courses count. I didn't do it. And I was like, wait a sec. How is this possible? This isn't lining up. I know you love your mother. How are you putting that on your mother? And so I was so confused. And I also just didn't want to accept the fact that they would put that on their mother, because like I wouldn't even put that on their mother. If you're watching this and you're like me, just so you know, people lie on that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. People lie on their mother. I had no idea. Does that mean I'm going to stop using it? No, absolutely not. I still need some measure, even if it's not, it's like using a condom. Like it's not 100% guaranteed, but at least you have some safety measure. You know what I mean? Like you're at least having some safety. You know what I mean? But if you're a person that lies on that, just so you know, I hope you're watching this and feeling like really guilty, because there's people like me out there that really take that shit to heart. Do not lie. Do not lie. I understand trying to cover yourself, but just don't lie. Don't do anything that you have to lie about. You know what I mean? I know. I'm very radical with that. And that's part of my upbringing, is my dad would absolutely like demonize and dehumanize liars. Like liars were gum on the back of your shoe. And so I feel like that's part of the reason why I take lying so seriously. Basically, the takeaway from that is that, well, one, I can't be so radical with it. Like some people might lie, you know, it doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. It doesn't mean that they hate you. Like maybe they're just nervous to tell you the truth. I'm saying this, but like I haven't actually implemented this yet. But I have to remind myself, like some people might just be nervous to hurt your feelings. So they lie. I need to be a little less radical with that, you know. Ideally, nobody would lie. You know what I mean? Like, don't fucking lie. So yeah, and then also I was explaining, we were talking about something, and like another common theme in my life is like, I would like be describing someone and I'm like, no, well, like normally they're never mean. Like normally they never yell. Normally they're quite nice. I'm like, but then there's sometimes like in certain circumstances, like if this was happening or if this was around us, then they would become a monster. I was like, but I don't want to generalize them by like, I don't want to generalize them as being a monster to me because normally they're not. And my therapist said that, let me give you an example. Like if you're dating someone and it's like they're normally really good, they're normally very respectful, they normally don't yell at you, they normally don't call you names, but they will yell at you and they will call you names if they think that you cheated on them, if they suspect that you're cheating. Even though the behavior of cheating is bad and it is something to argue about, that doesn't mean that person has a right to yell at you. You know what I mean? Cheating is just one example. Like it could be like, they're always nice to me, except if I were to move their shoes that they don't want me to move, then they will call me all nasty names and blow up on me. But as long as I don't move their shoes, then our relationship's perfect. And that's what I used to always say to myself about like people in my life. It's like, well, they're good to me, except they would beat the shit out of me if I did this. You know what I mean? Like I would say, only if I did that. And so like the way I fixed that problem is I just never did that. So I would avoid getting yelled at. I would avoid getting screamed at. I would avoid whatever they may do. Like they could yell at you. They could just some bad treatment. She explained that like they're basically like putting conditions on the way they treat you. Just because they're good most of the time doesn't mean that that's okay. They can't put conditions on the respect that they have for you. It's conditional. Their love is conditional. It's not unconditional. And she said that really impacts people, like somebody who's in a relationship like that, whether it's intimate or not. It really harms that person because it's like they're walking on eggshells and they don't know what person they may get that day. You know, they don't know what can set them off. And a lot of people will like defend their partner and say, well, they're not always bad. Like they're only bad sometimes. You know, it's very rare that they're bad. I always hear girls saying this. If they did it once, that means they're willing to go there. If they called you something disgusting once, that means they're willing to go there. That's all you need to know. They did it once, they're willing to go there. That doesn't mean that you can't practice forgiveness and that there's not room for growth and that person can't change. It just means that is definitely a red flag. Like you need to flag that. It can't be conditional. It can't be, well, I did mess up. You know, well, I did make a mistake and they were mad. So I'm just going to fix it. We're going to fix this problem by me never doing that again. That's not, one, we're all human and we're all going to make mistakes, but still that partner is telling you like, hey, I'll be respectful to you, but there's conditions. There may be times where I will treat you like a piece of shit. So just follow my rules and you'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like that's what your partner's telling you. Or it could be a parent, it could be a sister, it could be anybody in your life. If they put conditions on the way that they treat you, get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there. Especially if it's conditions on like your behavior. It's like they make you think that it's up to you. They make you like think that it's in your control. Well, then just don't do that bad thing and I won't scream in your face. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're saying to you. Don't do that. Well, all you have to do is just don't do that. Don't piss me off and then I won't scream in your face. And then if you say, well, I don't want you to really ever scream in my face. So are you saying you're going to do this bad thing? And it like makes you think like, no, I don't plan on doing this bad thing. Like I would never do this bad thing. And then they're like, okay, then I won't beat the shit out of you. And you're like, but I don't want you to ever want to beat the shit out of me. And then they're like, well, then just don't do this bad thing. Are you saying you want to do this bad thing? Are you thinking you want to do this bad thing to me? It shouldn't even be a problem how I would react to you doing this bad thing if you don't ever do this bad thing. And then it makes you think like, okay, well, like you just get nervous, you know, you're like, well, yeah, I'll never do this bad thing. But like still at the same time, it's like in the back of your head, you're like, but you would beat the shit out of me. And I'm just using beat the shit out of me. Like, and it could be verbally, it could be anything. You would do that to me ever? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very confusing. And like, I'm learning that it's like very manipulative. It's putting conditions on the way they treat you and it's like gaslighting you into thinking that you're in control. Once you know they're willing to go there, you're already the whole relationship is already set up for a whole lot of problems, because you're going to be walking on eggshells the entire time. On top of it, like, because you know that they might get a certain way if a certain circumstance, like sometimes it might not even be things that you do, it might just be that so and so is around, or this person's here, or if there's a lot of things going on, he might scream at you, like, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a lot of different things, but if they put conditions based on different circumstances, it also makes you be very hypersensitive all the time. It also makes you be very aware, like very hypervigilant, very hypersensitive to anything that they say, because you're like just waiting for the ball to, you're just wait. What is that saying? You're waiting for the shoe to drop, the ball to drop. You're just waiting for something to go wrong. Like you're anticipating it because you're trying to be hyper vigilant so that you can protect yourself. And so that will cause fights as well, because if you're hypersensitive, they might not even like be doing what you think they're about to do, but you're going to be like, oh my God, like, you know, you're just going to be irritable. You're going to like try your hardest. You're not going to be yourself. You're not going to be your true authentic self. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be watching what you're doing, very high anxiety, just very high tension, all because this person placed conditions on their love for you. If somebody places conditions on the way that they treat you, and I've seen this in so many relationships, the man is placing conditions on the way he treats you. If he's willing to go there once, he will do it again. He or she will do it again. Anytime. That's not a safe relationship. You're not going to feel safe with that person. The person you're with and the person that you end up marrying and that you're going to grow old and die with, you should feel so safe with that person. Like just this overall sense of peace and safety. But if you're with a person that puts conditions on the way they treat you, that doesn't feel safe for you. So your body's going to be constantly in this fight or flight state. It's not a good basis for a relationship, any type of relationship, even if it's like a parent-child relationship. My parent was always nice to me, except if I did something bad, then I would get beat up. You know what I mean? Like even in situations like that, if they did it once, you will know subconsciously, like your brain will tell you like this person is capable of doing this or treating me this way. And so you will constantly be hyper vigilant, super nervous, super anxiety. Not good for your mind, body, or soul to be in a relationship like that with anybody, romantic or not. Also, guys, I want to put a disclaimer that sometimes when I talk about things, it doesn't mean that I experienced them or that I'm talking about a specific person. Sometimes I just learn things in therapy, or I see things from other people in my life. It could be my parents, it could be my friends, it could be somebody I saw on social media, and I just learned things in therapy about it, and it doesn't mean that it applies to me, because I feel like a lot of people think that like because I talk about therapy a lot and psychology, and there's like so much to therapy and psychology, and I've been going for 5 years before I even had a boyfriend. And I feel like a lot of people think that anytime I talk about therapy or psychology, that I'm implying that this is about a specific person, and that's not the case at all. I feel like some people think that the only person I know in my life is my ex-partner, and like that's the only reason I go to therapy. Like I started therapy because I was in a relationship. That is so far from the truth. I talk about so many things in therapy. I'm in childhood trauma therapy. It revolves a lot around my childhood, and I have more things in life to worry about sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I'm honestly very envious of anybody that thinks that the biggest thing I have to talk about in therapy is my relationship that I had, because there's so many other fish that I have to fry. So that's just a disclaimer. Sometimes it doesn't apply to me, and it's not an experience that I've had. I just talk about whatever I've learned, and I've learned a lot. So yeah, and that reminds me, the past like few weeks I've had some people like come up to me or text me and say, "Hey, Sam, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He said, "I've just been seeing some sad shit about you." And I'm like, "What sad stuff have you been seeing?" And they're like, "You know, just you talking about therapy a lot." And I'm like, "What?" They think that people that go to therapy are sad. And that, it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Like I said, I just think there's a lack of education surrounding psychology and just emotions, I guess, and mental health care, that people assume that if you go to therapy or if you talk about therapy that you're sad. Therapy has helped me be very happy. I can confidently say that I am a very, very happy person. I'm very positive and very optimistic, sometimes too much so. I also think because a lot of people, they attach shame to like their upbringing, or like they just feel shameful about the topics that like I talk about, or that some people that go to therapy talk about. And I think what it is that like, because it's so like, remember how I said this in my TikTok video that shame loves secrecy. That's something that my therapist said to me that has stuck with me. And I think a lot of these people, because they don't talk about these things, because these things are considered deep to them, and it's like hidden, and it's like intimate, and it's like, oh, we don't talk about that stuff, like hush hush. I feel like for people that go to therapy who have worked through this and like have started healing, like it's no longer deep. Like this isn't really deep to me. Talking about this is very nonchalant to me. It's very casual, honestly, because I've shed so much shame in therapy. There's just, it's not that deep. It's not that crazy to me. Like it's more objective, it's more scientific, it's more factual. And so I feel like a lot of people who still attach shame to their upbringing or to their dysfunction, they think that if I'm talking about this, like I must be down bad, you know, she's down bad. But in reality, it's like, I feel like that kind of just shows, that like where they're at, you know what I mean? Like they think that this is some like crazy, crazy topic. Like, oh my God, I can't believe she's talking about dysfunction. Oh my God, she's airing out her dysfunction. And like, to me, it's like nothing. Like, guys, this is life. Guys, we all come from we all have some sort of dysfunction. And I'm so happy I'm in a place where I'm able to say that, because I swear to God, 16-year-old me would never believe that I would ever be able to say that. So yeah, I definitely have a lot of empathy for these people, because I was these people, you know. I did attach so much shame, so much embarrassment, so much secrecy to these topics. And a lot of times people project that, you know, like, how could she talk about this? There's some things that should be kept secret. Like, why should some things be kept secret? What is so terrible? Like, if I'm not embarrassed, why are you? You know what I mean? It's human. This is what it means to be a human living on earth, you know. So yeah, usually if you come across a person that's been in therapy for a while and they've been on their healing journey for a while, usually they're probably looking at therapy the same way I do. They're not just like going to therapy because something bad happened in their life and then soon they're gonna stop. That's not the ideal process for therapy. Therapy is like a lifelong process, really. There's so many different like milestones in a person's life that like needs more new learning. It's just learning. To me, I feel like I literally like go to class. Like I feel like therapy is really like going to class. Like I'm just educating myself, on my upbringing, on my brain, on my behaviors, on my downfalls, on my flaws, on my strengths. Yeah, I think it's just learning. I feel like I'm just going to school, you know what I mean? And of course there will be bad days where I do go and I am sad, you know what I mean? Like, of course. But overall, I feel like it's just a learning experience. And most of the time, especially for me, because I feel like I'm overtly a happy person and overtly positive, a flaw of mine because of my upbringing is that I am a little detached from my feelings. I don't really allow myself to feel sadness or like sit through those emotions. And it's because I'm subconsciously just like not feeling those things, which is a flaw of mine. It is something I need to work through, because in order for me to heal from something, I have to bring those feelings and those experiences from my subconscious to my conscious so that I can then move on and heal. People that go to therapy like to be victims, you know, they're just victim mentality. And it's so ironic because I absolutely hate when anybody pities me, and like I don't allow any pity for myself. I'm like I just struggle with compassion for myself, or like feeling bad for myself. Like it just gives me the ick. Like I really struggle with that. I'm a person that does not feel bad for myself. I would get so annoyed with people that have victim mentalities. So that's like the opposite of who I am. And it's a flaw of mine that I don't like. I'm like so much at the end of the spectrum when it comes to that it's actually a disadvantage to me, because it doesn't allow me to heal from anything, because I'm not feeling any of the emotions or radically accepting the damage that has been done to me, because I'm so used to like keep going, keep pushing. Like I don't sit down and actually think about, wow, that kind of sucked. You know, maybe I am hurt by that. Maybe that did cause me some pain. Like, the therapy process is so crazy because I don't even, like, this is all subconscious. Like, the only reason I'm able to explain this is because I've had my therapist explain this to me. Sometimes my therapist literally cries and I don't cry. Like, she'll start crying and I'm like, oh my God, is this a sad story? Like, am I saying something sad? And like, it makes me realize like, oh my God, I'm so detached from it. Like, I'm so objective and I'm so logical that like, I'm not even thinking like this is a sad story. Like, to me, it's just like, this is science, you know what I mean? Like, this is textbook. And there's all this like suppressed heartaches, like suppressed pain. It just comes up it just comes up in therapy, and that's what you want. You want it to come up so that you can heal, because if it's all back there, it'll just stay there. You need to bring it forward, process it, and move on. If you're like me and you don't allow yourself to feel a lot, it really is hard, especially the first few times that you have to actually sit there and think about it, and it's very uncomfortable. And remember, I always talk about being uncomfortable. Such an uncomfortable feeling. Like, I didn't really enjoy therapy. I remember being like, I don't want to do this anymore the first few times that this has happened. Or in my head, I would make excuses and be like, I don't know why we have to talk about this. Like, it's so stupid that didn't even really impact me. Like, I hate talking about this. But in the back of my head, I knew like the reason I'm probably saying I don't enjoy talking about this is because it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, especially if you learned to not feel your emotions to protect yourself, because in your childhood, you weren't allowed to feel your emotions. So yeah, what was I getting at? I was getting at something, right? Oh yeah, and a lot of people have been asking me like, have you seen the video? Have you seen the video of him crashing out? Guys, that video, he wasn't crashing out, okay? That man was making fun of me. That man was mocking me. And I'm just as confused as you are. Everyone in my life is confused. I don't know. Don't ask me. I want nothing to do. And if you knew anything that was going on behind the camera, you would be even more confused, because I'm telling you, from this point of view, that shit makes no sense. I'm not entertaining, but I'm not going to entertain that silly behavior. Another lesson I learned this year, honestly, this is a new lesson. What I learned is that crazy people are just crazy. And no, this is not a therapist advice. I'm sure a therapist would never say this or call them crazy people, but I'm going to call them crazy people. This is what I've learned. This is from my own experiences. Crazy people are fucking crazy. I spent my whole life trying to understand crazy people and trying to, like, I'm okay with acknowledge. Oh my God, I love that man. Ooh, I'm okay. What's that man from that show? I'm okay, Dolce & Gabbana. I'm okay with acknowledging that somebody's crazy, but like in my head, I always struggled with like, I want to know their motive. And so I would always be like, yeah, okay, they're crazy, but like why? Like, why did they do what they did? Like, what was driving them to do that? Like, what's the why? I want to know the why behind the action, behind the behavior, behind the emotion, whatever. I need to know the why. And so I would drive myself crazy trying to figure out why a person does what they do. And the mere fact that I found out is that there is no why. They have no rhyme or reason. Crazy people have no rhyme or reason. And I know this blew my mind. Because I was like, okay, but even like evil people, they have reason, like they have a motive. But some crazy people just don't have rhyme or reason. They make no sense. They're bizarre. They're weird. They're sick. So don't ever drive yourself crazy trying to find out why a person does what they do. Sometimes they're just crazy. I just have to accept. I have to radically accept that some people don't have a rhyme or reason. Some people don't have a motive. Some people don't have a driving force for what they do. They're just insane. They're just unique. That's a nice way to put it. They're very unique, and we don't want to go there. We don't want to try to understand them. Okay, let them do their thing. I do have some trips coming up that I'm going to, so I'm so excited. I'm definitely going to vlog the whole thing and start my vlogs separate from the Chit Chat and Change. And then I'm also going to start doing hauls on YouTube as well, so I could do like more extensive hauls. I'm just going to start pulling the trigger on my shopping carts and doing hauls on here and saying that I'm doing it to film a YouTube video when really I'm just buying it for myself. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.